is open to you.
Good morning, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you this morning? It's lovely to see all of you. Look, post-Easter people still show up. Isn't that great? No, you guys are always here, and I just love to see you because when we're together, there's more love to be felt. And what I know is that when we are together in community, what happens is there is a support and an energy and a validation that life is good and getting better all the time. And when it's not so great, we just hold each other up. So welcome. Thank you for coming. Thanks for making the effort. Thanks to the folks that are out there online tuning in. We are so glad you are with us because we know that in spirit there is no time and space. There is simply consciousness. And as we come together in a community, it is in that oneness of the one mind where we find our support, where we find our love, where we find ourselves. So thank you again for being here today. So our practitioner this morning is Nisa Burrows. You know, your practitioners are your prayer partners. They are the ones who can know the truth for you in and through any situation. So do make sure that you talk to them after service. Let them offer you a prayer on Sunday, or maybe leave a request in the box up front or a message on the confidential prayer line in the office. Any of those ways will have your request go out to the prayer corps, and they will pray for you and know the truth for you in a way that sometimes we just can't know it for ourselves. So they are here to serve you, and we are glad that they are. She'll be doing our opening prayer in a little bit and a reading to get us started. And we also have music today. We've got Jeff playing the piano, and we welcome back Tina Meeks. So let's get started, shall we, with a moment of turning within? If you'll just clear your laps and clear your minds and close your eyes and let the sound of the bowl take you within. There is a place within the heart of everyone where peace is, where love is the truth, where we can rest. Let that sanctuary be the place where we remember that you and I and Spirit are one.
And we deepen into this silence, in the knowing that there's one infinite creative life. And it is within that we live, move, and have our being. We move into our center, into the heart of ourselves. And finding there the all in all. The one life, the one love, the one creator. Continuously expressing itself to each one here, through each one here, knowing itself as each one here. Infinite possibilities flowing to each one here, ceaselessly, endlessly. Open and receive. gratitude for our limitless supply. In gratitude that each one here receives that which is perfect. In today's message, to support them in expressing their highest self. In gratitude, knowing it is so, and so it is. Good morning. My reading this morning is from Louise Hay's Heart Thoughts. And this one is, each person is part of the harmonious whole. We are each a divine idea expressing through the one mind in harmonious ways. We have come together because there is something we need to learn from each other. We have a purpose in being together. There's no need to fight this purpose or to blame one another for what is happening. It is safe for us to work on loving ourselves so that we may benefit and grow from this experience. We choose to work together to bring harmony into the business at hand and into every area of our own lives. Everything we do is based on the one truth, the truth of our beings, and the truth of life. Divine right action is guiding us every moment. We say the right word at the right time and follow the right course of action at all times. Each person is a part of the harmonious whole. There is a divine blending of energies as people work joyfully together, supporting and encouraging each other in ways that are fulfilling and productive. We are successful in every area of our work and of our lives. We are healthy, happy, loving, joyful, respectful, supportive, productive, and at peace with ourselves and with each other. This treatment is lovingly released into the one mind, which does the work and makes it manifest in our lives. So be it, and so it is done.
Good morning, everybody. This is a song that I love to sing at this time of the year. Many of you know that I have a CD, which is like ancient now, CDs. The first CD I ever did, it was entitled In the Garden. It reminds me of my mother, who loved gardens. So here we go, Jeff and I. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear the love of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. God speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet that the birds stop their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and God walks with me, and she talks with me. God tells me I am God's very own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. For God walks with me, and God talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other will ever know, none other has ever known, none other will no, never, 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 no.
Okay, we're done. Tina, thank you. I know I say this, I think, every time you come and you happen to do that song. 24 years ago, you sang that at my grandmother's memorial, the Fullerton Church. It's a long time ago, but it's always a touchstone for that time for me, so thank you. And I think you get better at that song every time you sing it. Woohoo! Yeah, thank you. So this morning we're lighting our candle for love. for the love that we know when we are truly, truly in touch with our own hearts, which is part of that one heart. And how good it is to remember that that is our foundation for life. That is truly who we are, and that everything we think and dream of and do is of that love. So today, we're doing a bit of a sampler. Everybody like tapas? These are new Thought Tapas. Bite-sized appetizers or snacks. Now, who doesn't love snacks, right? Snacks are those things you do for yourself in between the big meal, the major format of the day, where you pause and refresh. And we all need to pause and refresh. And I think sometimes we discount the importance of having that little extra bit of something that feeds our soul. We think that it's all about the big stuff. We think it's all about finishing the project or volunteering all day on Saturday or doing some, raising a child or getting that third degree or whatever it is. But truly our life is made up of these small steps, the small bites that we take that nourish us along the way, because the way is the way. What we are doing and how we are doing it is our life. It's not just the milestones, it's everything in between. And so to have an appetizer, something to whet your appetite, to pull you in a little more, or pull you forward a little more, or to have a snack, a little bite of refreshment partway through that afternoon when your energy dips, is something that we do for ourselves that actually creates all of the big changes, one little bite at a time. And you know this because if you happen to be one of those people that put on the few extra pounds during the pandemic, it happened one bite at a time, didn't it? It wasn't like you went out and did 10 pounds in a week. No. You managed to stretch that out and make it last all 2 years of it? Yeah, okay. Just saying. All right, so on a spiritual level, we'll go for the positive aspect of all those little bites. And I want to start with this, the overall concept that life is about oneness. When any of the mystics reach pretty much the same conclusion, no matter which path, which door they came in on. And at the mystical level, there is only one. That one thing is all there is. Most spiritual traditions, and specifically the Veda, also says that there is the divine. The divine exists as well. Call it God, call it nature, call it the universe. The divine exists, and there is only one thing. Therefore, this one thing must in fact be the divine. There's no way around that. Every major religion says the same thing, that God is omnipresent every place and every time. It's what the circle and the symbol means, that everything is contained in this essence we call God. And I seem to exist. I'm standing here speaking, reading this to you. You're sitting where you're sitting, listening. The divine exists. There's only one thing. That doesn't mean that I am God. It does, however, mean that I am of God. That all that I am is of this one thing. Just as I am physically the result of my parents' biology. I am of God. It means that wherever or whatever God is inclusive inside of me, all contained within that circle. So if God is going to be in this moment, then God has to come through me. The greatest teachers say that the movement of God in the world is love. They say there's no problem that cannot be solved with the application of enough love. And I am of God. So if love is going to be in this equation at this moment, I'm the one that's going to bring it. There's only one thing. I am of that one thing. I am the one that brings love. And as it is true for me, it is true for everyone. And when I bring this love to any situation, then the rest of the universe has an opportunity to see that love as a tent pole around which we can begin to build. The people with whom I interact have an example of a way to look at the world that is other than the way the collective is seeing it, an alternative to the despair and anger that oftentimes is so easily apparent. Whatever is happening, whatever I may feel about it, wherever I find myself, my response always must include love, for that is the one thing, and it is everywhere present. This article is Jeff Kober. He's a Buddhist writer, and yet he's teaching the spiritual principle which is in alignment with what Science of Mind teaches. Because Ernest Holmes said, when you get down to what's true, we all teach the same truths. We just talk about different ways to get there. You can meditate on a cushion, you can say Hail Mary, you can do any number of rituals or prayers or feast days or fasting. All of it brings us to the place of knowing our own spiritual self as part of an expression of that one thing. And so principle is principle wherever you find it. And what I'd like to do today is introduce you to some writers that you may or may not know of who are part of New Thought's teaching and philosophy. The first name you're probably familiar with. It's Eric Butterworth. You know him from Spiritual Economics. One of my favorite books of his is In the Flow of Life. And I want to give you a little bit of an excerpt from his writing on the flow of life. As soon as I find where I wanted to start. All right. So talking about how difficult it can be in the world sometimes. And should we be indifferent to people and circumstances? And, not at all. It's our world. We do what we can do. But we are to get along in the world or with the world, then we have to keep in the flow of life, not get hung up on the obstacles and the barriers and the conflicts and the trauma, but to stay in the flow of life. And the best way to do that is to love. It's a simple matter of getting your lights turned on before you face any darkness in the world or human behavior. In other words, every morning before you set out into the world or before making initial contact with the world, maybe through watching the news or reading the paper, it's better to use your wisdom to prepare for your day by prayer or meditation, to consciously choose to touch the flow of life, the foundation of life, to touch that love within. Instead of expecting the world and the people in it to make your day happy or harmonious, you will establish yourself in the kind of consciousness you desire to experience, letting it flow forth through you and go forth from you, because what we teach is that who we are attracts more to us in like form. So by finding our way in the morning before we begin our day to that heart center which knows flow, which knows love, which knows peace, which knows trust, which has faith, to step out in the world clothed in those garments will change the way in which we move through the world throughout the day. So if you take your hands and you put them out in front of you in fists, go ahead. This is the visual aid. Those of you at home, nobody's watching, go ahead. I don't know if you feel it, but I feel it. If I clench my fist, my whole body tightens up. I'm ready to fight. if I go out in the world with clenched fists, holding tight to anything, I will fight anyone who tries to take it from me, right? If you walk up to someone with your fists like this, what are they going to do? Duck, or they'll also go like they don't know what you're doing, but they're ready. Now open your hands. The minute I open my hands, I can feel my shoulders go down. My arms drop. My breathing expands. You know, with an open hand, you can pat someone on the back or offer them a lift up. You can create something. Take the hand of a child or a friend. With an open hand, we are receptive, and we are ready to receive. And we are offering our gifts rather than fighting. It helps when you meditate or pray to have open hands. Eric says, now don't make a fetish of this. He says, but it is a symbolic gesture for your body, for your subconscious to know that you are opening to receive, just as Nisa read about. Here I am, an instrument of love, an agent of peace in the flow of life, relating easily, lovingly, patiently, understandingly with all persons, everyone I meet. It means that I am called, it's my responsibility, I am in my highest self open to being responsive to the flow of life and love and wisdom, and go forth in that way. Go forth as a joyous being, as someone who can bring joy, bring love to any situation. Eric Butterworth is a Unity minister. He has many books, but I cannot recommend this one, In the Flow of Life. It is one that you can pick up pretty much any chapter. To Grow Old or Grow Onward is one chapter title. He's got, wait for it, The Effusion of Light, The Art of Getting Along, The Wellspring of Giving. This is basically a how-to book which teaches the principles of the science of mind. Now, another person who talks about these New Thought Tapas doesn't actually come from the New Thought tradition. He is a Toltec healer. And it's Don Miguel Ruiz and the Four Agreements. Many of you recognize the book. You know the author's name. He also has several books. And I share with you the fourth agreement. Anybody know offhand what that is? Always do your best. Yes, that's one of the ones before Diane. It is an agreement. Always do your best. Keep in mind that your best is not going to be the same from one moment to the next. Everything is alive and changing all the time. So your best will sometimes be high quality, and other times it will be not as good. When you wake up refreshed and energized in the morning, your best will be better than when you are tired at night, and don't we know that? Your best will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick, sober as opposed to drunk. Your best will depend on where you are within. Your best will also change over time. As you build the habit of the four new agreements, your best will become better than it used to be. If you do less than your best, you subject yourself to frustrations, self-judgment, guilt, and regrets. It doesn't matter if you are sick or tired. If you always do your best, there's no way you can judge yourself. And if you don't judge yourself, there's no way you're going to suffer from guilt, blame, and self-punishment. By always doing your best, you will break a big spell that you have been under that says you're not enough, that one. Doing your best, you live your life intensely, you're productive, you're good to yourself because you're giving. When you do your best, it is the actions that you take that actually create your happiness. Not so much that things happen to you or from the outside, but the action that you take, because you are motivated by the idea, by the concept, by the energy and intention of doing your best. Most people take action when they expect a reward. But if you take action with the intention of doing your best, the rewards come to you often greater than what you thought you would have gotten. It's sort of that, that old saying that render unto God what is God's and unto Caesar what is Caesar. First, in all things, you first give to God. You first do your spiritual work. You first come from the heart, and then everything else is added back in. So the fourth agreement is a reminder that we don't have anything to prove. We can say no when we want to say no. We can say yes when we want to say yes, because you're going to live your authentic life. And one of the things that Science of Mind explains over and over in several different ways is that it is when we are our authentic selves, when we are true to our own heart, when we show up with our personality and quirks and gifts and love, we are living our best life, and we inspire others to do the same. And so this idea that you can do your best in all situations, even though your best goes like this, really says, I can show up as myself, and I choose to do that all along the way. So again, we learn spiritual principle from a variety of sources. And picking up a little book like this, which has short chapters and lots of white space on the pages, and see, the pages aren't very big either. This is the kind of bite-sized approach that reminds us new ways of living the spiritual truth we believe in our hearts and putting it in plain language that we can use to nourish and sustain us throughout the very complicated days that we seem to live in. So now I want to take you to an older name that you may or may not be familiar with, and that's William James. He lived at the turn of the last century, 1842 to 1910. He was a psychologist and a writer, and you'll see as a philosopher, and he talked about how to think, how to act, and this idea of wholeness and trusting life that is ours for the taking. This understanding of who and what we are is within us. And so here's a couple of things that he said. This first group is how to live life. So first he says, the formula to live your dream. Number 1, be bold. Number 2, begin now. Number 3, no exceptions. That's pretty clear cut. Then he said it again elsewhere, just a little bit differently. He said, to change one's life, number 1, start immediately. Number 2, do it flamboyantly. And number 3, no exceptions. He says the sovereign cure for worry is prayer. And what is prayer but a centering in a greater truth that reminds us that we are aligned with the one wholeness that is. He says that our thoughts become perception, and perception becomes reality. Alter your thoughts, alter your reality. Where have you heard that before? Now, this next portion, he's talking about being in the world and being within and without. And he says, there's nothing so absurd that it cannot be believed as truth if repeated often enough. That sounds like the outside world to me. But then he says, most unhappiness is caused by because people listen to themselves instead of talking to themselves. So what is it that you repeat inside your head often enough to believe it is the truth, rather than telling yourself the truth? Right? We all tell ourselves things. We all speak to ourselves in ways we would never do with a friend or a loved one. We all have, little spirals in our head that take us down into the dark hole if we're not careful. When we could be, and most of us use our spiritual practice to tell ourselves the greater truth, to remind ourselves that yes, we are of God, that we are love expressing, that what is in me is a gift to the world. No matter what my mother said, no matter how that guy picked on me in school. Don't believe it just because you've repeated it all your life. Throw it out and replace it with something better. He says our view of the world is truly shaped by what we decide to hear. We talk about that all the time in the modern world. We talk about how as a society, we've sort of siloed ourselves into only listening to people who agree with us. We don't really know how to have a conversation with people with other opinions or ideas. We've sort of, and social media has exaggerated that whole process of, my feed suits what I look at, therefore I only hear what I want to hear, and and everybody else is other. But there is another way. We can decide to hear from a different perception of the world and ourselves and broaden our experience of life. William James says that the greatest discovery of the 20th century is that our attitude of mind determines our quality of life, not circumstances. That is not to say that circumstances do not impact who we are, but what he said was, circumstances do not make me, they reveal me. Circumstances do not make me, they reveal me. It is what we do with them. It is what we do in response. It is how we are moved to change our thinking or to change our lives or to change our actions or our beliefs that creates the experience we have of the world, of our lives, of ourselves. When things happen, what is revealed to us about ourselves is how strong we really are, how much we really cared, how little we did care, right? Like most of us, the pandemic rearranged all of my priorities. I mean, obviously, the big ones stayed the same, but so many things that were so important aren't. And so many things that I took for granted are now so important that extra effort happens. Circumstances do not make me, they reveal me. And then he said, is life worth living? It all depends on the liver. Now, I took that to mean a bodily organ. I'm thinking, what does he mean? It all depends on the liver. Like what? How healthy you are? I mean, so I'm going through this whole metaphysical thing in my head. Well, what does the liver do? The liver takes out the toxins from the body. Well, that's good. You got to let go of what's toxic. And yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then I realized afterwards that he meant it depends on the one who is living. The liver, like the prayer and the prayer. So he's a funny guy, but that wasn't something he meant to be funny. So that's William James. It is funny. He's got, what's nice about his writings, there are some original writings from him. He wrote the Varieties of Religious Experience, a Study in Human Nature. He wrote The Will to Believe and other essays in popular philosophy. But there are also a lot of books that are collections of his writings that are more recent. There's a William James Reader and Essays on Pragmatism, a new name for some old ways of thinking. So there's a lot of material about his work and of his work that you would find familiar and sometimes a little more approachable than Dr. Holmes, who could be just a wee bit wordy, as we know. All right, so someone else with a modern take on Science of Mind principles, Wayne Dyer. Oh, yeah, we know him, right? So this particular book is about being in balance, and I chose it because he talks very specifically about how to create principles, or how to create habits to match your desires. Because the thing that what habits do for us is they make us a little more efficient, a little quicker, right? We don't have to decide everything, every step, every time, because we have a routine or we have a an approach that works for us. So how do you create habits that help us to be in alignment with who we are personally, what we desire personally? And he's talking specifically in this chapter about addiction. And he says addictions of every description are vehicles that people board in order to get someplace higher, more pleasurable, more peaceful, more tuned in or turned on, and so on. But if you're already aligned with this energy, then it's obviously unnecessary to climb aboard any vehicle headed to a place where you currently reside. What's he saying? He's saying that if you know your spiritual truth and your spirit's calling and your ability to be in a place that brings you pleasure and comfort and raises you up, then you don't need anything else to get there because you're already there. He says, here's what happens for most of us when we're not doing that. The pattern goes something like this. We must have more and more of what we desire, whatever your addiction of choice is. The more of it we take or imbibe, the more we need, the less effective it is as we consume more. And then to top off this huge imbalance, what we're using to get to this place of bliss is toxic to our well-being. Our desire is for bliss and peace and love and health and freedom and so on, but the addictive behavior gives us precisely the opposite. If it goes unchecked, it will wreak havoc on our body and mind and ultimately destroy us. Now, we tend to talk about handling these things as fighting them or conquering them. We use the words of war. You know, the war on terror, the war on drugs, the war on poverty. How has any of that worked so far? You know, we still have all those things. The law of attraction says that if you are come out fighting, you're going to get a fight. And that is not the way of healing. That is not the way of wholeness. The way of healing and wholeness is the divine, which is love. So he says, he calls it a blunder. He says, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the remedy for all blunders is love. Now, why does he call it a blunder? Because it's mismanagement of our lives. He says, choosing the lopsided world of addiction over the equilibrium that is your spiritual heritage is a distortion of your birthright. It's a blunder. It can be balanced with love. You originated from an invisible spiritual energy field of pure well-being. Your desire is to be balanced in that spirit in your thoughts and behaviors now in this lifetime. You want that harmony. You want that sense of being in balance. Your source doesn't create from toxicity. It doesn't fill your veins or your stomach or any part of you with poison or excess. It creates from well-being, balance, and effortless perfection. This is your spiritual heritage, and love can correct the blunders that distance you from your spiritual self. To reconnect with your loving self, especially when you are down in the darkness. One of the, I won't say easier ways, I don't think any of them are easy when you're in the darkness, but one of the ways to move out of that space, if you cannot love yourself in the moment, is go love someone else. And that love can take any form. It can be a gift of service, it can be making a meal, it can be a phone call, it can be picking up a prescription and dropping it off for somebody. It can be anything. But as we express love, we activate it within ourselves. We can only benefit. And so again, new thought, tapas, bite-sized pieces of ways to navigate the world when we are feeling depleted or obstructed or just tired. And again, this book, it's very small. You notice the pages are small. There's lots of color, lots of white space. See how wide the margins are? There's not very much text on every page. And nobody says you have to read the whole thing at once. You can just pick it up and see what appeals to you. This one might be. I might have gotten it here. I'm not sure. But we'll look. All right, so this is the last one. This is Neville Goddard. He also is from the early 1900s, 1905 to 1972, was an author from Barbados. He wrote self-help, and he wrote all about the Bible as a reflection of the human psyche. So he actually had a bit more of a transpersonal or metaphysical approach to the Bible's teachings, and this is Neville Goddard. Now, he normally just goes by Neville, and with this little book, we're going to do pick a page because each page has a little quote on it. So the pages are from 1 to 215. I need somebody to call out a number. 189 says, your inward conversations are the breeding ground of all your future action. Your inward conversations are the breeding ground of all your future actions. Your words have power, and what you speak, even if it's to yourself, is going to dictate how you show up for yourself and the world. All right, another number. 42. Oh my goodness. Diane, there is nothing on page 42. Call out an odd number, please. 76. Odd number, please. 81. Okay, I have 11, then 81, and then we'll try again. So 11, oh look, conversation means manner of life and way of life. Manner of life, how we move through life, and way of life, the kind of life we're living, all comes down to conversation. There's power in that because, you can always change the conversation. All right, the second one was 81? Okay. Never entertain an undesirable feeling nor think sympathetically about wrong in any shape or form. We become what we contemplate. Now, don't misunderstand this. Don't think that this means we never look at what doesn't work or what hurts or what's difficult or what's ugly or mean in the world. It doesn't mean don't look at it. It means don't live there. It means see it and know something greater. Entertain. Invite into your home and have them sit down and serve them tea. No. Yes, you are present in the world. No, I am not inviting you into my internal home. But I will greet you with an open palm, with a hand of love. I will offer what I bring as the spiritual being that I am, so that healing might happen. Because we become what we contemplate. I want to be the love in the world that heals that which is hurting. All right, another number, please. 65. Never accept the suggestion of lack. I can't, there isn't enough, I'm not enough, you're not enough, there's not enough Not true. Not true. Not true. Never accept the suggestion of lack. Another number. 21. When ideas change, so do your intentions and attitudes towards life. Right? You get a new idea, all of a sudden you have new information. Hopefully it opens things up. If it shuts things down, it's not your idea. Not for you. One more. 77. I wonder if I'm missing the other half of the book. Is there supposed to be something on the even-numbered pages? Oh, no, there's no suggestion of lack. I have everything I need. 77, the concept of yourself is the cause of all the circumstances in your life. Oh, great, right? That's a whole lot of responsibility, but when you think about it, how I see myself is going to be reflected in how I'm treated, how people talk to me, what I recognize around me. You all know that we have selective sight, right? If you tell yourself you might want to buy a blue car, all you'll see for the next 2 weeks is a blue car, right? Now, the blue cars are always there. They just don't register. So what registers for us in our lives is the idea that we already carry. And the biggest idea that we already carry is who we are. So how you think about yourself, going back to that inner conversation, is how life is going to show up. It's going to cause the circumstances in your life, not necessarily make other people do things, but put you in a place where you feel a certain way more often than not, in all the different ways it could possibly show up in the world. Now, at the same time, all the other ways you could feel are all out there in the world too. All those other colored cars are all still out there. It comes down to what you are looking for and what you are looking from. So I'm going to close with a quote from Marianne Williamson that I think ties this all together for us. She says, just like a sunbeam can't separate itself from the sun, and a wave can't separate itself from the ocean, we can't separate ourselves from one another. We are all part of a vast sea of love, one indivisible, divine consciousness. Namaste. So if you will, let's take a moment in prayer. Breathing in, centering down, as Howard Thurman says, into that place of the heart, that place within our physical bodies that is the holder, the container of our spiritual knowing. That consciousness of love and peace, that place of wisdom, joy, that sense of belonging that we crave and that we have. For we are all belonging in this oneness of life, in this one energy, this one mind, this one heart, of which we are all made. And I know that this energy of life, by any name, call it God, call it Allah, call it nature, call it the goddess, call it the universe, or even self-determination. This energy of life is in, through, and as all things. And I am that. And it is true for all, that we each are expressions of this life, this universal love, this divine consciousness. And I claim and know my own power. The power that each of us has to change our thinking and change our lives, to welcome new ideas and forms of creativity, to open to a transcendent view and experience of life. And what I know is that when there are circumstances of despair or difficulty, where weakness shows up, where terror happens, that love heals. Love not only as a feeling, but as an action in the world. That I am guided and guarded into that which is mine to do. As I know myself to be a conduit of this divine power, then I choose to bring the love, bring the open hand, bring the giving heart to every situation, that healing might happen. And I know this to be true in the hearts of all who awaken, that as each of us opens to the greater self that we already are, as our self is revealed to us by the circumstances of life, that we too are called forth, each of us, to give our gift, to be the presence, to express life as wholeness, as compassion, as kindness. And knowing this, I am grateful. Grateful beyond words. that there is a power in life greater than I am, that I use, that I express, that I am. Grateful for the gifts that come from this creative flow of life of which I am always a part. And grateful for the open hands which surround me, lifting me up, offering comfort all along the way that we might arrive together. And I answer this call and release my word into law, into this mind of God, into the essence of the universe to be acted upon as it must, unfolding as ever greater good. For it is truly all God, as am I, and so it is. Bite-sized pieces. There's an affirmation in your bulletin. You'll find it in the center of the page there, and I'm going to speak each sentence, invite you to repeat it after me so that our congregants at home can join in. Today, I try new things with confidence. I celebrate small steps and expect big changes. Life is good, and so it is. All right. Our invitations, if you haven't already, be sure to check out our, once again, in-person Wednesday nights. Our pre-gateway meditation starts at 6:15. You can get into the space at 6 o'clock, so come a little early, get yourself settled. It's in the practitioner room, which is just off the foyer here down the little stairs, and Nisa leads that for us. And if you are not able to attend in person, but you still would like to have that little half hour of being centered in meditation, you can join via Zoom. The link is on the website and in the e-blast. This Wednesday night at 7 for the service, we have a guest speaker. It's our Interfaith Night, and we're welcoming Reverend Renee Martin. He's an ordained Christian minister with Disciples of Christ, and he is speaking on chaplain is the new pastor. So he seeks to heal and reconcile the trauma that comes from being in community. In other words, people living together sometimes clash. And there is a healing that happens, and this is the type of work that he does. So it would be great to have a full audience to greet him, to listen to this message, and ask your questions. You know, the nice thing about Wednesday night is that there is a presentation, and then there is always a conversation. And we just learned today about how important conversations are. So wouldn't it be good to converse about something that's new to you maybe, or just interesting, or maybe something you haven't thought of before? So do join us Wednesday night, 7 o'clock in the chapel, and come early for the meditation at 6:15. All right, I think that might be all I have. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, so for, I'm going to start that sentence over again because that isn't how I wanted to start it. So I would like to thank you up front for your continued contributions for this community. That's where I was headed. Those of you that are here in the room, there are baskets on your way out if you would like to leave a donation. And those of you online, you can donate online or send in a check or come next Sunday and see us in person. What I want you to know is that you give out of the love of this community, and love always builds. So what you are doing is actually supporting love, not only for us, but out into the greater community, and we are so, so grateful. If you will, say our prosperity affirmation with me. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Take it away, Tina.
Stand by me, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Oh, yeah, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me. Come on to church when you can and stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, stand by me. Oh, everybody will stand. Stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. One more time. Gotta stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. God bless you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tina. Thank you. Another round of applause for Tina and Jeff, please. Lots of love. All right, my friends, we are wrapping it up, so I'm going to invite you to stand up, move out to the circle, and rock out a little with Eddie Watkins Jr.
Take a look at the person next to you. Say God loves you and I love you too. Now feel the love in the sanctuary. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.